You ever feel like some things in life are just meant to be? Like, no matter what, the universe makes sure certain paths cross. That's exactly how I feel about Kadaif. She's not just any donkey, she's family. And I know that sounds strange, but if you stick with me, I promise you'll understand why. This little donkey changed my life. And maybe, just maybe, this story will change the way you see things too. Kadaif. Her name means velvet in Turkish, and it fits her perfectly. Soft, gentle, a little shy. But before she got that name, before she had anyone to care for her, she was just another forgotten soul, lost in a world that can be incredibly cruel. I remember the first time I heard about her. It wasn't some grand moment. It was just a regular day. Then I got a call. A group of schoolkids had found an abandoned baby donkey. Think about that for a second. Just a tiny, helpless creature alone. No mother, no herd, just left. Why would someone do that? How could anyone just walk away and leave a baby like that? I still don't have the answer, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. But I do know one thing. She wasn't going to stay alone, not if I had anything to do with it. The kids didn't just walk away either. They didn't say, "Oh, that's sad," and move on with their day. No, they did something. They called an animal rescue and begged for help. Can you imagine that? Kids, maybe 10 or 12 years old, seeing something wrong and actually doing something about it. If only more adults were like that. The rescue called me. They told me about this baby donkey who had no one. And honestly, I didn't even hesitate. I just said, I'll take her. Didn't think about the logistics, didn't wonder if it would be hard. I just knew she needed someone. But here's the part that really gets me. Those kids, they didn't just make a phone call and pat themselves on the back. They paid for a taxi to bring Kadaif to me. A taxi. With their own money. A journey that took almost 24 hours. Think about that. They put their own little savings together because they cared that much. If that doesn't restore your faith in humanity, I don't know what will. When she arrived, she was so small, so scared. She didn't know me, didn't know what was happening. She had every reason to be afraid, because up until that point, people hadn't exactly been kind to her. But I wasn't just going to be another human who let her down. I brought her into my home, which, if I'm being honest, is already a bit of a zoo. I've got a bunch of rescue dogs, big ones, small ones, all with their own stories. I wasn't sure how they'd react to this tiny, wide-eyed donkey. But you know what? They accepted her immediately. No questions asked. Just sniffed her, wagged their tails and said, "Yeah, you're one of us now." Animals get it. They don't judge, they don't care about differences. They just see someone who needs love, and they give it. Imagine if people were more like that. At first, Kadaif didn't know what to think of me. She kept her distance, watched me like she wasn't sure she could trust me, and honestly, who could blame her? But I was patient. I sat with her, talked to her, gave her space when she needed it. Slowly, she started to understand. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going to hurt her. And then one day, she did something that changed everything. I had to leave for a little while, just to grab something from another room. The second I stepped away, she cried. This tiny, scared little donkey called out for me like a lost child. It broke my heart and warmed it at the same time, because in that moment, I knew she saw me as her mother. From that day on, we were inseparable. You don't really think about how much care a donkey needs until you have one. It's like having a baby. You're constantly making sure they're fed, safe, warm. Winter was coming, and I knew she'd get cold. So I made her a little jacket. It wasn't fancy, just something to keep her warm. But when I put it on her, she looked at me like she knew, like she understood that someone finally cared. And I did. I still do. I always will. It's funny. I'm in my late 40s. I run a business. I've done a lot in my life. But somehow, Taking care of a little donkey has made me question everything. What really matters? What's the point of all this if we're not looking out for those who can't protect themselves? I think this is my purpose. Not just Cadaif, but all of them. The dogs, the animals who've been abandoned or forgotten. Someone has to stand up for them. Someone has to say, "You're safe now. No one's going to hurt you ever again." Because animals feel, they love, they trust, even when they have every reason not to. And once they do, it's the purest love you'll ever know. Cadaif doesn't have to worry anymore. She'll never be alone again, never be hungry, never be afraid. I'll make sure of that. And if you've made it this far, I want to ask you something. What can you do? Maybe you're not in a place to take in an animal, and that's okay. But can you donate to a rescue? Can you help spread awareness? Can you just care? Because the world needs more people like those kids, more people who see a problem and actually do something about it. So, if you ever get the chance to help an animal in need, please take it. I promise you, they'll change your life just as much as you change theirs. Thanks for listening, and if this story meant something to you, share it. Let's remind people that kindness still exists.